Okay, so let's talk about the biggest question mark currently around the Steam Machine. I say the biggest question mark because there are still many other questions that need to be answered here, but the biggest one right now has to be, how much is this thing going to cost? I've seen ranges everywhere online. Some people are aiming for like the lowest price, one that I don't know if it's attainable, but then other people are saying it's more than $1,000. I mean, it is all over the place online. But I wanted to go over some of my thoughts on the pricing here and kind of where I think this machine is going to come in, and how Valve does have a bit of a wild card out there right now, something that definitely could add a substantial amount of marketing, but also some value to the Steam Machine as we head towards its early 2026 release. Because you know what? When you launch a new console, you feel like you would want to launch with a game. Yeah, that's what we'll look at. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. So let's take a look. This is, once again, the Steam Machine site where they go over all the features and just work to sell you on the system. But then we get down to the specifications that have been huge talking points. Specifically, though, it's the 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM. And I think that is very purposeful on Valve's part, mostly due to cost. I think if this said 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM, I'd go, oh, that might come in a little higher than I was thinking. Right now, a lot of these chips that would be used for things like VRAM and system RAM and stuff, it's getting expensive. Like, it really has jumped quite significantly in the last month, and there's belief that it's not necessarily going to come down to more reasonable rates in the near future. Now, who knows further out? A lot of this has to do with a lot of the data centers that are being created for AI, and who knows where that's going to end up going. But at least for now, when I see 8 gigabytes of GDDR6, I think of really a decision that's been consciously made so that the pricing can come in at a certain level. So the thing with the Steam Machine is it wouldn't make as much sense the further up the ladder you go in terms of pricing. There is going to be a spot where we get to, and most of the mainstream, and then also even people who maybe want to tinker with it or have it as a secondary box that they can put in their living room, that when they don't feel like maybe sitting at their desk and playing Dota or whatever, like serious high stakes gaming online, PvP stuff or whatever, and they just want to kick back and play a platformer or even just like a single player third person adventure, something like that, it would make sense to have in the living room and just kind of hang out and play with a controller on the couch. But even that has a certain, I'll say, breaking point, or a spot in that price ladder where you go, I'll just kind of make a PC and put it out there. And that's the thing I'm sure Valve is very aware of, just based on, yes, some of the specifications that they went with, as people are looking at this and going, wow, Valve is kind of using somewhat older hardware. And yeah, I mean, that's what they did with the Steam Deck. I think about it now. The Steam Deck's been out for years, and it's still trudging along. I mean, it gets updates constantly, and Valve has been working to sort of mold SteamOS around even that hardware to where it is now, I'd say at this point, again, years later. And thinking about that, 1 year in the PC space is like, it's like dog years. It's like, that's like 4 years, in like normal tech stuff. So for this, I mean, with what the Steam Deck's been able to do, it's certainly punching above its weight class now in terms of the specifications, especially at like lower power draw in the PC handheld space specifically, not necessarily compared to the Switch 2, which is almost like witchcraft with what it's able to get out of like 10 watts. But nonetheless, with this in mind, and we look at what Valve is doing here, I'm thinking we're going to see a price point that might actually come in and surprise some people. Most of the people who are saying, oh, it's $900 to $1,000, and that is coming up more than I would expect, because I think if Valve sat there when they were drawing up plans for this and someone said, we're going to have to price that at $1,000, it would just be a non-starter. Like they would go no further with this, because it doesn't really make any sense for a product like this and what they are targeting here, kind of the demographic, all right? So when I look at this, I think the pricing that they would be considering is somewhere between $500 and $700. And instead of just giving you a whole range, I kind of think the Steam Machine is coming in at $599. That is my guess. All right, at this point. But it could be a little higher, could be lower. I mean, they might come in at $549. And again, that's for the 512 gigabyte model. I would assume the 2 terabyte is going to be $150 more than what the 512 gigabyte model comes in. So that's kind of my guess and where I'm falling right now. 600. But what if Valve was like, man, we kind of have to charge 700 for this thing just based on the market conditions? Because again, we see what's happening with some of the chips right now that are used for things like VRAM. There was even rumors going around that NVIDIA would have to hold off on like their refresh of the 50 series cards because they're just having a hard time sourcing enough GDDR7. All right, we'll see if that pans out as we get into 2026. But even that just being brought up and the fact that that scenario is so believable, okay, this I understand. So maybe they go, we might have to go up to 700 because they don't want to be. It makes sense for them to subsidize because they assume if you buy the Steam machine, most of the time you're probably going to stick with Steam. Now, you may already be sticking with Steam, and this is just another avenue for you to get to their platform. But either way, if they sell a few million systems here, they're going to assume there's a few more million people who are just more dedicated to the Steam platform where they make a ton of money. All right. So what if they had to charge 700? Well, they could do what they did with the Valve Index. They could pack in a game. So the Steam machine at 600, when you look at these specs, sounds pretty good. The Steam machine at 700, you go, ooh, you start to kind of do the in-between, I don't know, maybe. But the Steam machine at 700 and it comes with Half-Life 3, you might go, well, I was going to buy Half-Life 3, and that's probably a $60 or $70 game. Okay, maybe I will go and pick that up. And I say that because Half-Life Alyx, right, was created, of course, to go along with their Valve Index, their VR headset and the controls. And it was a really good game to show off what it was able to do with a lot of those interesting inputs and ways to kind of experience the game. I don't think Half-Life 3 is going to do the same exact thing for the Steam machine because it's a more traditional kind of setup as opposed to VR. But it would add significant value, I think, because Half-Life 3 is a game that people have basically fantasized at this point of being announced, and we could be on the doorstep of that happening. All right, so here's the thing with Half-Life 3. It's immediate marketing presence for that Steam machine if they go, hey, here's Half-Life 3, and it's been optimized heavily to run really, really well and look good on the Steam machine. In fact, while we were creating the Steam machine, we figured we would play into the 8 gigabytes of VRAM and do all these things so that this is a well-optimized game for basically all hardware, but specifically for the Steam machine. And in fact, it'll be packed in because it's 700. Now, they could also go, no, the Steam machine's 600, and then Half-Life 3 is just separate. But the fact that they may also look at that as if you get Half-Life 3, you have to activate it on Steam, and then we really have you because we've now started your digital library if you're brand new to the platform. All right. So that is something to consider. But of course, I think there are a lot of people who are hesitant about the idea of Half-Life 3 being revealed because if it doesn't, that's massive disappointment. And I get that. It's one of those games where you don't even necessarily say the name of it because you don't want to be too hyped up, right? And then come crashing back down to earth. Because sure, it could be Half-Life 3. It could be Portal 3. How disappointed would people be with Portal 3 if they were expecting Half-Life 3? I mean, they'd be disappointed, but Portal 3 would be pretty cool. However, here's the thing, all right? There's a lot of smoke right now around the idea of a Half-Life 3 reveal. I mean, a lot. I was looking at headlines. Half-Life 3 hope reignited. Half-Life 3 rumor roundup. All roads point to Valve unveiling by 2026. I think they were talking about it on Insider Gaming. This is my favorite headline right here. Half-Life 3 screenshots and official trailer. Hey, shout out to DSO Gaming. They figured it out. I mean, that is a powerful comma right there. It is like holding everything up in this headline. But no, there is a lot of smoke right now around Half-Life 3 getting revealed. And I will tell you, it's not completely unfounded, as crazy as that sounds. I know, you're like, oh, there's no way. Some are thinking it's getting revealed this week, all right? I think the reason for that is because next week is Thanksgiving in the US. You're not going to reveal it on Monday and then people are in and out of the office throughout the next week for Thanksgiving, right? If you're in the US and stuff and you're observing Thanksgiving, you know what I mean? It's people go, oh, if I take off a couple of days, all of a sudden there's a 5-day weekend in front of me, 6-day weekend or something. So, but then really you come back from that week, and we're into December immediately. They could reveal it in December, but this week does kind of make sense. It's following up the Steam Machine, which got a ton of traction as it is through marketing and stuff. People are very excited for the device. You kind of keep that rolling along, and yeah, you make that software announcement that Half-Life 3 is indeed real, and it's launching next year, early 2026. Some have said maybe in March. I think it makes a lot of sense to put it next to your Steam Machine. I think it makes a ton of sense to pack it in like you did with Half-Life Alyx. But either way, it would certainly get people even more excited for this device if Half-Life 3 was optimized for it. But also, people would be very excited for Half-Life 3, and I'd be very curious to see how exactly it turns out and what their big kind of aha thing is with it. As we've seen with Half-Life 2, there was they were playing around with things like physics and stuff, which is really interesting. I'd be curious what their big thing is for Half-Life 3, the big wrinkle, the big element to it that makes, I think, pursuing Half-Life 3 worth it in the first place. But maybe it is just, hey, we wanted to sell the Steam Machine. This is a great way to do it. Let's pair Half-Life 3. But let me know what you guys think about that one down below. Is it possible that Half-Life 3 could be revealed as soon as tomorrow? And what do you think about the Steam Machine pricing? Do you think I'm in the neighborhood with 600, or am I a little too optimistic and this thing ends up being $800, $900, even $1,000? Let me know down in the comment what your best guess is. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.